Hi, welcome to Exploring the Illusion of Free Will. My name is George Ortega. We're here with our guest, Enel. Enel, great to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. So this is episode number 129 for all those of you who are keeping count. I mean, this is like 129 weeks of demonstrating to you in so many ways that nothing that you do is up to you. I mean, that's very important. Okay, so like the title of today's episode is Lokesh Hanumappa on Free Will, Happiness, Guilt, and Blame. Okay, and Lokesh Hanumappa is somebody who's an IT specialist from India who makes YouTube videos, and I found his video refuting free will on YouTube, and I thought it was so great, so we're going to feature it. In other words, like, we're going to introduce the show, then we're going to show the video and come back and review what he said. All right, so like, all right, let's start us off, Enel. So like, in other words, like, this show is about why we don't have free will. Free will is a myth, it's an illusion. So just before we begin to refute it, because we'll refute it a little before Lokesh does, explain to our audience what most of us mean when we say we have a free will.
Free will means that we have the ability to make decisions 100% independent of our genetics and conditioning.
Excellent. Yeah. In other words, like, that it doesn't matter what, like, our genes have no influence on us, our conditioning with our parents, all this stuff, that we can override all that, okay? And we can, and we'll explain that a little later, but all right, so then now...
Let's go to the videotape.
Well, no, don't you want to go to the importance?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, why is this show so important?
This show is important because it's the biggest thing ever. The belief in free will encompasses all other beliefs. It's the mother of all beliefs.
Yes, and this is not just Enel and me saying this, okay?
No, it's obvious.
Right. There's this guy, John
Searle?
John Searle, yeah. 13th, of all of the philosophers born after 900, he's ranked number 13 in terms of how many times he's been cited by other philosophers. So the guy's a big guy. It's like, he says, like, for free will to be understood by the world as an illusion, as it is, that's my paraphrase, whatever, would be a bigger revolution in our thinking than Einstein or Copernicus or Newton or Galileo or Darwin. It would alter our whole conception of our relation with the universe. This is big. There's nothing bigger. I mean, there could be things that are bigger, right? But there
no, nothing could be bigger.
Well, like if everybody was like completely happy.
But they would have to know it wasn't their free will making them happy.
That's true. But if we
this encompasses everything.
If we
law, school, love, relationships, everything.
If we found out what happens after we die, that might be bigger.
Whoever discovered that cannot say they discovered it with their own free will.
That's
the universe
true.
compelled them to discover that. Okay.
All right, as Enel's saying, this is bigger. This is bigger than all that. So
it's creating a whole new human species.
Yes.
A different way of looking at everything.
A brand new human consciousness. All right.
It's not really new. It's been that way all along. We just haven't discovered it. We've never had free will.
Exactly.
And unlike Dennett's book, we're not evolving out of it either. It's a bunch of crap, but sorry.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Anyway, let's go to the video.
All right, yeah. Let's present the video now, and then, like, we'll come back to review what Lokesh said. It's a brilliant argument that I hadn't heard before.
Just so you know, Einstein didn't believe in free will, just so you know.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. On with the video. Here we go.
Enjoy the video.
Hello, friends. Today let us talk about the topic of free will. One of the basic pride or the assumption that everybody carries is that you can plan something and make it happen. You can conceive something and make it happen for sure. This is the basic pride that everybody carries. This pride is also called doership. That is, I am the doer. Or in a easy words, you can also call it as ego. That is, I can make it happen. I can plan something and I can do it. There is nobody who can come in my way of the goal and me. That is the basic ego. So let us take a simple experiment right now. If you want, you can pause the video and do this experiment. Just without doing anything for just 5 minutes. It's a very simple experiment. Just sit quiet for 5 minutes without doing anything. What does without doing anything mean? You should not move your body a little bit. I mean, you should not scratch or you should not just shake a bit. Nothing. No adjustment whatsoever in the body level. Same with the mind. You should not think anything. No thought should come in. Simple experiment. Just for 5 minutes. Please pause the video and try. I'll go with me as I explain it. Careful analysis of the results of this experiment has proven that people are not able to sit quiet doing nothing. Meaning they are not able to keep the body without moving. And even more tougher is they are not able to stop thoughts coming to them. What this means is, we started out with a challenge to the ego. That is, we said, ego, now don't do anything. You plan yourself, ego, you conceive that you will not do anything for 5 minutes. We just posed the challenge to ego. Ego took the challenge. Free will took the challenge. It said, okay, now I will sit. I am free to do whatever I want to do. Now I will sit and I will not do anything for 5 minutes. That's the challenge ego took. That's the challenge free will took. That's the challenge doership took. Unfortunately, it failed. It could not keep its body and mind motionless. So this proved that ego is impotent. This proved that there is no free will. Free will is an illusion. And ego is simply in a start of illusion, or it is not, it is shaken now. It decided and it could not do. That too even 5 minutes. Now, if we do the same experiment with 1,000 people, all the 1,000 failed. None of them could sit quiet for 5 minutes without doing anything. What this reveals is that there seems to be a greater force, a force behind your ego, a force greater than your ego, a force more powerful, more potent than ego is working, using you, is working through you. And the same force is working with all the 1,000 people, or if you go to the extent all the 6 billion people, and you can go to the extent all the living species, and you go to the extent entire universe, galaxies, everything. This force seems to work through many things, many living beings, and including you. This force has been called as Brahman in Advaita, which is non-dualistic religion. No self by Buddhist, because if you are not able to do what you want, then where is your self? There is no self. This is a very important revelation. It's a great revelation. Which means free will is an illusion, your ego is an illusion, your ego is impotent. It cannot do whatever it wants to do. It's simple as such. And that is a pride you carry day in and day out. And that seems to not exist. Now we will carry forward why this revelation, why this experiment, why this thought that free will is not existing, or ego is impotent, has to be understood. It's a clear statistical analysis that, even done by great business schools, proved that East is more happy than West. East is more content, happier than West. Materialistically, West is very superior compared to East. But somehow in happiness and contentment, East is more happy than West. And if you go and observe why, most of the people in East believe that there is a God which is higher than him, and he is making all things work, and he is making that, and he is, he is the one who is in control of everything. He is the one who is making things happen. Most of the East believe that. And once you believe that, you have surrendered yourself, you are at peace, you are at happiness. But West believes other way. West believes that he is in control. West believes that he should make it happen. Hence, he has all the stress, because if he has to do everything, obviously he has to worry and think about so many things, and he has to be in stress, right? So now friends, we will take this individually. In your own life, just go and analyze, why are you not happy? If you analyze, it clearly comes out that most of the unhappiness is because you think you should have not done something, or you think you should have done something for yourself. And in relationship, you always think that that person should have not said so, that person should have not done this, or that person should have done this. This is the prominent unhappiness for you. But if you take this view of you are not the doer, you are not having free will, and the same, nobody else has a free will, nobody else has an ego, there is a greater force working behind me and working beyond him, then you cannot feel guilty about yourself, you cannot have pride also for yourself. At the same time, you cannot hate somebody, you cannot envy somebody, because all there is only one source, one God, one Brahman, one non-self, which is working with everybody. So there can be easy relationship with yourself, devoid of all the guilt and pride. There can be easy relationship with the other, devoid of all the hatred and jealousy. It is a very good view to have. Think about it, guys. Think about this, ponder about yourself, that there is no free will, that there is no ego. The ego and free will is an illusion. Another simple experiment. Just can you certainly and comfortably and clearly say what is the next thought going to be? If you can accurately predict what is the next thought going to be, again I say you have free will. If you can't predict what is the next thought, where is your free will? You can't even predict your own next thought. What are you trying to do with your ego? So I would say there is no free will. The ego is an illusion. Experiment with these two, share your views, and we learn from each.
Okay, we are back. I hope you enjoyed the video. Lokesh Hanumappa on free will, happiness, guilt, and blame. Now here's the thing. All right, so Lokesh starts out saying that we tend to have a pride that we can make things happen, that it's we who are making things happen, and this is coming from our ego, right? He said it's our ego and it's a sense of doership. All right, so he's going to refute this. So he comes up with an experiment. And Enel, you want to explain the experiment?
As you just saw in the video, he tells you to sit quietly for 5 minutes, do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, now think about that. That seems easy, right? You got a free will, you think you can do that? Well, all right, so
no scratching, no twitching, nothing, no thoughts, nothing.
Exactly. And this is, and what he says is with your body, hold your body completely still, don't move a muscle, and don't think a thought. I mean, that's easy, right? You got a free will, you can do that, right? Okay. So what's
I'm trying to do it right now.
What's his next point? His next point
Well, obviously that's impossible.
Yes.
I didn't even read that yet.
Right, and why is it impossible?
Because you don't have a free will.
Right, because do you think with your free will, you think you can prevent your body from twitching or moving or shifting and stuff? No, I don't think even. Actually, you ever go in Central Park? These guys, they act like they're mannequins.
Yeah, right. I have
completely
seen
still.
that.
And so these guys can do this maybe, but
but they're having thoughts, I'm sure.
That's true. That's very true. All right, so And the other thing is, yeah, like Lokesh's second challenge. The cool thing about this is, like, I had never heard this particular refutation of free will. You know, I'd always heard, like, well, you know, you can't really choose your thoughts. But he's saying, like, you can't choose to stop having thoughts. In other words, his challenge is like, all right, I want you to just sit there, don't move a muscle, don't have a thought. Okay? You can't do that. So, like, if you can't do that, you can't. That's not free will. Right?
You cannot predict what your next thought will be. As you just saw in the video, he makes that point too.
Right, that's our second, that's the second experiment.
Right.
So, like, all right, so what he says is like, so all right, so like, it's not us who's, like, you know, having us think these thoughts that we can't will to not think, right? So what he refers to, like, that what's, you know, in Vedanta text, I guess, it's the Brahma, or like in Buddhism, it's the sense of no self. So there's the whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, you know, no self, whatever you want to call it, something is like controlling us. We're robots. We're like on remote control. We're pre-programmed. Everything that's happening has to happen because, like, that's the way it is. We got absolutely no choice in it. And that's what Lokesh is explaining.
That's correct.
Okay.
He makes a good point, as you just saw in the video. The difference between, would you like to explain the difference between the East and the West when it comes to this matter? I like that point, as we just saw.
Right. And you know, okay, like, I did some research on happiness, so I can't validate this completely, but he's basically asserting that the East is happier than the West.
That's right.
You know, in general.
And don't forget, they're much poorer than us.
Right. So, like, so then his point is that, like, a lot of our unhappiness here in the West comes from, like, worrying.
Comes from the belief in free will.
Explain it, yeah.
Well, as we just saw in the video, he makes a big deal, if you look at probably the 5-minute mark of the video, the difference between the East and the West. The West has much more money. I think he's from India, right? But he's saying the belief in free will makes you believe that you should have done this, you could have done that, and it makes you miserable. Blame, guilt, resentment, I think he said jealousy, envy, they're not possible in the East because they know that nothing's up to them. They're happier.
Well,
isn't the bottom line in life to be happier?
Yes.
So this belief, free will, is a toxic, terrible, harmful belief.
It's horrible. It's insidious. It's pernicious. It's
you
like
did that to me
evil.
Of your own free will.
I know.
That implies malicious intent.
I know.
It's crazy.
It separates us. It's like insane. That couldn't. This is probably the most insane thought delusion in the history of delusions. I mean, seriously.
You couldn't have done otherwise. You could have only done otherwise if you wanted to do otherwise, but at that moment in time with the universe the way it was, you didn't want to do otherwise.
Right, and if you did want to do otherwise...
Why didn't you?
Exactly. All right, so again, what happens, you know, Lokesh points out that, like, a lot of times, you know, we make mistakes in life. We get stuff wrong all the time. Okay, so, like, if it's us and we get something wrong, you know...
Blame ourselves.
We'll feel guilty. Yeah, we'll feel the pain of guilt. And that's not going to make us happy, right? That leads to unhappiness. And again, we just...
The biggest obstacle to happiness is the crazy, nutty belief in free will.
Yeah,
Public enemy number one.
Probably is, because, like, you know...
Causing depression, suicide, homicide. It's a terribly toxic... And it's addictive and bad for you. It's like smoking. It's horrible.
Oh, it's the worst because it's also
just say no.
It's idolatrous. It's idolatrous. In other words, like,
wait a second. If I had a free will, I would know what that means, right? It wasn't in my genetics and conditioning.
Idolatrous is like
idolatrous?
in like Judaism, Christianity. It's like to have an idol. In other words, like, God is supreme. There's only one God, and if you say that something else is God, that's idolatry. It's like the first two commandments. I'm the Lord your God, whatever, and, like, there is nobody other God than me. It's like two commandments say the same thing. Mm-hmm. All right, so here's the thing. If we're attributing, if God is supposed to be sovereign, all-powerful, everything that's supposed to be, that happens is up to him, and we're trying to tell ourselves and each other that, well, no, but, like, this stuff is not up to God. This stuff is up to us. What do we think and say and feel and all that stuff? That's idolatry. We're saying we're attributing to human beings, to ourselves, powers that only God has. You know?
I don't think he talks that much. Did he say that in the video? No, I don't remember that part of the video.
But he gets
anyway, I like this video because it's a regular guy in India who found it. He's not a philosopher, like you said. He's just a regular guy with a job, and he finds it upsetting that he has to make these YouTube videos for his friends and family to watch. So he's not a famous guy, but I think he's very insightful as a regular person, because I think philosophers screw this up. Professional. We're just regular people with regular jobs, and we don't screw it up because we're just talking to regular people in non-philosophical terms.
Yes, exactly.
Because they start talking about incompatibilism, compatibilism, and a lot of fancy words. If you read Dennett or any of these other guys, Sam Harris not so much. But the people need to hear from the people that there's no free will, because when a philosopher says, you can't really keep track of what they're saying.
Exactly. And also Lokesh's, this thing that, like, this challenge. You think you have a free will, try sitting perfectly still, not having any thoughts. Try to freely will that.
What
I've
if
never
someone
heard
says
that.
to you, that's not the definition of free will?
If somebody says that to me, I say, you want free will so much, you're willing to change.
Well, just look in the dictionary. It says a thought or an action free from all prior causes and or divine intervention. That's I didn't write the dictionary. I don't know anyone at Merriam-Webster. I'm not part of that family. I mean, and all the other dictionaries define it the same way. So we're not making, Daniel Dennett can change the definition and these other characters, but look in the dictionary. Go to Google and look up free will. It's in the dictionary, and that's what it says.
Yeah, and so some people, as you're right, some people will say, well, free will really means that I'm doing what I want to do. Right?
Yeah, right. Let's explain that.
But, all right, and this is like the Dennett, whatever. They confuse it. But what they don't get, the simple point, we're just tangenting a bit from this, is that, like, you don't get to choose what you want to do. In other words, like, if you're doing something that you want to do, but what you want to do is completely compelled, it's up to this causality. Should we go into causality for a minute?
I'm just saying the definition of free will is in the dictionaries. You can't. The funny thing about free will is you can't define it because it's a mythical unicorn or Loch Ness monster type. You can't even define it, but the dictionary does say free of all causes and or divine intervention. That's what it says. We didn't write the dictionary, so, that's how we're defining it.
Okay, all right.
But people do like to say, we have free will in America. We're not coerced, and we don't have a gun to our head. And if I want to go to a Yankee game, it's because I want to. No one's saying to me, if you don't go to the Yankee game, I'm going to blow your brains out and kidnap your mother. I mean, that coercion is obviously not. But we're talking about free will that, you can't choose what you want to do.
Right. In other words,
right.
Yeah, it's not whether somebody's like making you do something.
Right. That's
or not.
what people.
Right,
that's
much
how the philosophers.
Deeper.
So that's the bait and switch that a lot of philosophers Dennett like to put out there. They change the definition of free will. Free will means your life is up to you.
Yes.
We're saying no free will.
Nothing is up to you. Nothing ever was, nothing ever will be. Deal with it. And if you're not dealing with it, don't blame yourself.
And if you get in an argument with someone after this show, watch how they change the definition. Go to the dictionary. Like I said, you can't even define it because it's a made-up thing.
It's insane. It's insane.
But
How
if you
can
had to
find
define it,
something
it says
insane?
free of all causality and or divine intervention, free of all prior causes.
Yes.
That doesn't exist.
Okay. All right. We got 4 minutes left. We got to get back to, like, all right.
Can I explain what free will would look like real quick?
Yes.
Free will would be me taking my car into a parking lot, getting naked on top of the roof, and singing Christina Aguilera songs. George would come up to me and say, why are you doing that? I would say, I have no idea. There's no cause for it. What would that be?
Exactly.
Random insanity.
Exactly.
I couldn't take credit for that either because there's no reason for it. I don't even know Christina Aguilera's songs. So if you saw me doing that, naked is better, on top of a car singing her songs, and you said, why, Enel, are you doing that? And I didn't know. Would that be free will?
That's not free will, because if you can have a free will,
No, but no causes, no prior causes, not divine intervention. I just did something.
You can't do them because you can't do something that's free of reasons.
Well, if you asked me why I was doing it, I would say I don't know.
Right, and if you don't know, obviously, if you don't know why you're doing something, you can't be freely doing it, right?
Well, it sounds random to me. That sounds like quantum indeterminacy.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, we
right.
got to get back to this because,
Go ahead.
again, Lokesh is like this. He's not a philosopher, and these guys have been studying these for 20 years. Some of them, they don't get this. This guy comes with another powerful refutation of free will. He says, like, fine, you think you have a free will? All right, simple test, simple challenge. I want you to try to predict what your next thought is going to be. Okay?
Actually, let the audience at home do that for 10 seconds.
All right, here we go.
That seems like a long time on TV.
Is it 10
Were you
seconds?
able to predict your next thought? No. So what does that prove in the next? I'll let you talk for the rest.
Right. So think about it. If you could choose freely your thoughts and nothing was making you choose them,
You could predict them.
You say, all right, in 5 seconds and 10 seconds, I'm going to think this. I'm going to think that. I'm going to think whatever. You can't even do that 3 seconds from whatever, you know?
Also, my number one new theory of refuting free will is, are you happy all the time? If you were happy all the time, if you had free will, you could freely choose your thoughts and only choose good, happy, angelic thoughts all day and all night of your existence. Why can't you do that?
That's it. Okay, Lokesh brings this up. You know, like why are we not as happy as we could be? If we had a free will, we would be. You know, that it couldn't be more clear. All right, we got like a minute.
So again, why does he say the East is happier than the West? He makes a point of that in the video we just saw.
I'm guessing, all right, like 30% of the world doesn't believe in free will, and I'm guessing that like they're from the East. Very few people in the West, you know.
But why would that make? What's the benefit to society and yourself by? He's saying the East is happier.
Right. So in other words, if you're not believing in free will, you're not worrying, you're not blaming yourself, you're not feeling guilty.
You're just
about
along
stuff.
for the ride.
Exactly. Exactly. So like it's absolution. It's like forgiveness. You know, this Christianity stuff is about forgiveness. Forgive your sins and stuff, feel better, right? So if you don't have to forgive yourself or anything, you can feel a lot better. Okay.
It makes forgiveness easier.
Yeah. Ultimately, it's not. It makes it unnecessary because like if you did nothing wrong to begin with, then you know.
But you still might be pragmatically responsible.
Well, yes, absolutely.
But don't blame yourself.
No.
And don't stigmatize yourself.
Right. All right, Lokesh Hanumappa on free will, happiness, guilt, and blame. Thank you for an excellent video. I mean, you're
We should
basically...
upload this and let them watch it, this episode.
We're going to.
Oh, okay,
it's going to show. It's going to be showing in Manhattan on your show on No Free Will. You know, after shows here, and then we're going to upload it to YouTube so the whole world can see.
And contact them, so maybe we can show his friends in India.
Absolutely, we're going to do that.
Oh wow,
Yep.
That's a big market for us. A billion strong.
All right, again, Lokesh, thank you for an excellent video. You're teaching like these philosophers something that
Keep up the good work.
never even thought of. You know, if you can't sit perfectly still or predict your thoughts, you have absolutely no free will. Thank you for watching.